Okay, we are live now. Welcome to this live stream public meeting of the 911 Specialist Work Group. Thanks to Senator Mary Beth Carrozza and other legislators, this was established in law, and we are working to make sure that we can increase the number, increase the prestige, the benefits, the retirement, and the quality of life for the courageous women and men under the headsets who save lives and property every day. There may be more people who are joining us, but we do want to get started and respect your time. While we have asked you to reserve 2 hours for this meeting, we may be a little shorter today, but we have a lot to do before our final report is due on December 1st. So with that, unless Senator Carrozza, do you have any opening remarks?
We're ready to go.
Okay, I'm going to toss it to Arnold Aja with the Department of Legislative Services, who has done yeoman's work on this. And so, Arnold, please, why don't you kick off the meeting?
Thank you, Senator. I'm going to be sharing my screen and showing our agenda for today.
Aja with the Department of Legislative Services.
David, if you could please give me hosting privileges. And so, as you can see, first we're going to touch on the legislative report from the 2025 legislative session. Then we will go over the preliminary results of the 911 specialist survey that we sent out to the primary and secondary PSAPs. Then we will put forward a plan of action for the upcoming meetings and our efforts. Then we'll have discussion, closing remarks, and we'll adjourn. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Senator Kagan, and we're gonna start with Senate Bill 81.
So before we start, I just want to remind everybody, because there's so many smart people in this room and we all know too many acronyms. So if we can try not to do that without translating. So PSAPs are the public safety answering points, which are 911 centers. And so let's try to make sure that anyone watching from home can follow along. So thank you, Arnold. Starting with SB 81, House Bill 445, as you can see, it has been signed into law. It was one of the very important recommendations of the 911 Commission that I chaired for 4 years, and it basically just increases penalties and clarifies that it is against the law to do a cyber attack against a 911 center. It has been done elsewhere. We want to make it clear that whether it's a foreign entity or a teenager thinking it's cute or funny, that it's not okay, and that has already been signed into law. The next bill, Senate Bill 36, when we passed Carl Henn's law in memory of my friend and constituent who was struck by lightning and died when 911 was overloaded. One of the things that we made sure we did as we were modifying and updating the funding structure was to make sure that no money from the 911 fee could be spent on anything other than 911. And we, in law this year, and this has been signed already, we created a teeny tiny little loophole that says if it's to connect to 988, the suicide and mental health hotline. So to make it easier for 911 and 988 to interconnect, that's an okay use of a small portion of 911 fees. And I want to acknowledge that Delegate Jamila Woods has joined the room. And all of you are important. I just have to give special shout out to my legislative colleagues. When we created MDEM from MEMA, the Maryland Emergency Management Agency, and made it a cabinet level department, the Maryland Department of Emergency Management. One thing that we all missed was they didn't have the ability to craft regulations. And so we fixed that, and that has now been signed into law. And
I
you will
will,
do this
yeah.
one, Arnold.
Yeah, I will talk about this bill, and this is Senate Bill 396. And under Maryland law, the Department of Public Safety and Correctional Services is required to pay a public safety death benefit to the surviving spouse, child, dependent parent, or estate of certain public safety professionals who are killed in the performance of their duties. Senate Bill 396 makes 911 specialists eligible for the public safety benefits. And generally, an application for the public safety death benefit must be submitted within 3 years after the death of the decedent. And statute specifies that the amount of the benefit, which totals $125,000, must be adjusted to the consumer price index. And statute also authorizes the Secretary of DPSCS to award the benefits on a case-by-case basis. For example, if the decedent death was caused by intentional misconduct.
Okay, and that I just want to give a shout out. That was sponsored by Senator Mike McKay from Western Maryland. You'll see on the first page here that there were a lot of amendments, and unfortunately, some of the benefits that would apply to 911 specialists were removed. But
Well, there's also actually there's another provision that passed that establishes that an individual who dies by suicide is presumed to have died as a direct and proximate result of an injury sustained in the performance of duties if the individual was diagnosed by a licensed medical or mental health professional with post-traumatic stress disorder, acute stress disorder, or a trauma and stress-related disorder, and the diagnosis resulted due to the nature and the performance of the individual's duties. And yeah, I'd like to note, just as the senator mentioned, that as originally introduced, the bill included a provision that would provide local jurisdictions with the option to allow 911 specialists to qualify for the law enforcement officers pension system early ops. I was not able to find out why that provision was removed from the bill, but there have been similar efforts in the past, notably by Senator Carosa, I think in the 2022 and 2024 session, and the State Retirement Agency had some concerns. Federal law does not include 911 specialists in the definition of qualified public safety officers, and based on this fact, 911 specialists may not qualify as public safety officers under the federal IRS guidelines for tax exempt status. And I think the agency advised that their inclusion could maybe jeopardize the plan's tax exempt status. I just wanted to point that out because it is germane to the work group's work as we consider strategies to, enhance recruitment and retention.
yes. So Arnold, maybe before our next meeting, maybe Senator Croza, Delegate Woods, and I can try to learn more about what that was
So
about.
I know we're on this specific bill, and I had a bill.
Senator Croza, you're still really soft. I don't know if others can hear you better than I can.
Okay. Is that better? I just turned up my speaker audio.
Okay,
Is that better?
it's a little better.
Okay.
Hopefully everyone else can hear you.
Molly, am I okay?
Okay.
So on this particular bill on the death benefits, and Arnold, you mentioned that 3-year window. I had authored a bill for a particular situation. There was a correctional officer that was killed in the line of duty, and however, they had to determine that he was killed in the line of duty. They due to an investigation, that basically the hit was directed by a prisoner inside. And so then they later determined after that 3-year window that it was a line of duty death. So it took a little bit of that bill, took a little bit of the threading of the needle. So when you had mentioned with this bill, that this would now cover, do we think it does or does not cover 911 specialists due to that same federal objection that the State Retirement Agency brought to our attention when we introduced LEOPS for 911 specialists? In other words, I'm trying to figure out if the same issue, which I agree, Chair Kagan, we'll have to work offline because I think we're going to need our federal representatives to work through that issue with us. But is this issue about defining 911 specialists not qualifying as public safety officers under the Federal Internal Revenue Service guidelines? That was the same reasoning, which is why State Retirement Agency objected and opposed our bill to allow LEOPS for 911 specialists. I think I'm trying to be clear in my question because I'm trying to zone in on this federal issue that we'll have to resolve, I think, in order to be successful with LEOPS for 911 specialists. But I also didn't know if it also affected this bill in front of us.
I'll have to look into it and get back to you if that's okay. I don't
We'll
want to.
circle back because I
Yeah.
think that's an important issue, and I think we all need to make sure we fully understand it. And I have to say, I'm not expert on this bill or on LEOPS, so let's put our head together and loop in Delegate Riley, Teresa Riley as well, who doesn't seem to be on yet, but is on this work group. So should we move on, Arnold?
Yes.
So this was very exciting. This bill that Delegate Joe Vogel sponsored in the House and I sponsored in the Senate actually got out of the Senate unanimously. It was late in the process and died in the House Rules Committee. The House bill had not moved out of Ways and Means, but again, this is a retirement benefit that was going to be expanded to 911 specialists. So great concept. We are definitely bringing it back again, and we can talk about it more as we continue our journey. I don't think we need to go deep into it today, but this is something that has potential, but did not fully pass.
I think that ends the portion of the meeting pertaining to the legislative report.
Let's see, does anyone have any questions, suggestions, ideas, reactions?
Chair Kagan, first of all, thank you for your leadership in driving those bills. And I don't know if this would be a later date, but you know, one of those bills I think potentially did flag the challenge for us. If we are going to propose legislation in the future regarding LEOPS for the 911 specialists. So it sounds like we may need a whole kind of, you know, just, I heard you kind of direct maybe with the members of the Maryland General Assembly who are on the work group to work with Arnold on that. But I'm picking up that is going to be a pretty heavy lift because we're going to, you know, have to, you know, it's going to take, we're not going to be able to just do it at the state level. It's
okay. Well, let's continue to learn more about that and see what might be needed. I'm hopeful that the heft of this group, the credibility and expertise and network of this group is going to help us move some stuff forward that might have been a heavy lift. So we'll see. Nothing's impossible until we try it, right?
And then on SB 759 on the retires, you know, obviously, you know, going forward with it next session, is there, I'm sure you might have some thoughts on groundwork we can lay in the interim to ensure passage for next session.
Yes. And anyone who's got ideas on that, love to hear them. And my chief of staff is on. Delegate Woods, you're here if you've got if you've got any ideas, and again, Delegate Riley, so we'll start earlier is one thing for sure.
This is Delegate Woods. I certainly appreciate all of your work and look forward to us meeting so I can also give some with regard to times bills.
Great, thank you. So Arnold did a masterful job of doing a survey that went to all 24 of our counties, to the 911 center directors. And it took some doing and a lot of follow-up. And he was a very good poker. And then I helped a little, and we all put the word out. And I want to publicly thank all of the 911 center directors who responded. And little by little, we gotten the overwhelming majority, and nearly, but not quite 100% participation. So Arnold has some preliminary results on, I think we have to start with the facts of who's under the headset, what the status is, so we can then figure out what next steps are. So Arnold, do you want to share where we are?
Chair Kagan, before we do that, just, and that's an overwhelming response if we were able to get from all 24 counties. I went back and looked at my notes on, you know, the challenge for the survey, and trying
Yes,
to make sure we were getting, we had a discussion at that time if we were surveying both at the county level and possible municipalities. I think I brought up the Fruitland Police Department.
yes.
Did we have, I just wanted, before you go through the results, I just wanted to know if it reflected just the counties or some of
Right.
the municipalities as well.
Great question, Senator. I'm going to let Arnold speak to that, because there are the primaries and then there are secondaries like Annapolis, Fruitland, Ocean City. There are others, and then there are federal agencies and all that. So our focus, our priority was really the 24 counties. But again, I'll let Arnold speak to that. We ended up with, Arnold, you said 21 of the 24? And the other 3 know that they are under the gun, and we are watching for them to hurry up and get their results in. So we are not giving up on the final 3.
Yeah. I think this discussion will focus on the primaries. We did receive responses from the secondaries. There are some municipalities, the state police barracks, at least one institution of higher education, and we're working on summarizing that, and we will be including that and sharing those responses as well to the members of the work group. But just for today, we're just gonna go over what we got from the primaries. But I will be sharing my screen again. And so here you can see a preliminary report based on the responses that we received so far. Some of the data is still trickling in, and there needs to be some follow-up for clarification. Trying to standardize and summarize the responses was a bigger task than we imagined. And but we will keep working and updating our analysis. This, like I said, this presentation will focus on the primary PSAPs, and the secondary PSAPs will be included as we continue summarizing the data. And this, like Senator Kagan said, this report is informed by responses from 21 out of the 24 primary PSAPs. You will see that the responses are shown by groupings based on the PSAP's respective size in terms of the population. As of now, the preliminary report does not include information on the salary. This data is a little tricky because of the wide range of levels and position classifications across the PSAPs. And I'd really like to encourage members to provide feedback and suggestions on how we can improve the report. And today we'll be going over some highlights. And here on this page, this table shows employment statistics. The number of 911 specialists employed across all PSAPs ranges from 12 in a small PSAP to 168 in a large PSAP. The number of 911 specialists employed ranges from 73 to 168 within large PSAPs, 21 to 73 within medium PSAPs and 12 to 27 within small PSAPs.
Arnold, I'm going to interrupt for a second since Cecilia is not able to see the chart and others may be driving or otherwise unable to read the chart. So large 911 centers, large counties, we're looking at more than 400,000 in people population. Medium is between 100,000 and 400,000, and smaller jurisdictions are have fewer than 100,000 people who live there. And so it does reflect the number of 911 specialists does reflect the population in that jurisdiction.
Yes.
Helpful? Cecilia, is there
Yes,
anything else
thank
that
you.
would?
I was definitely a little lost in the beginning. Thank you for that
Yeah.
clarification.
Absolutely. And let me just be clear, one of the three that we have not gotten in is Baltimore City, and Tania has been in the midst of a lot of things, so she's not on today. But Baltimore City, Kent County, and St. Mary's County are the last three. So so hopefully we will get those in shortly. But those are the three that are not included in this. Please, Arnold, go ahead.
Sounds good. Next page shows here that you can see generally hires do not have previous public safety related or 911 specialist experience. Page 3 shows the average length of service in the primary PSAPs, which is 8 years of service. 911 specialists in the large PSAPs tend to have longer tenure compared to those in the medium or small PSAPs. The average length of service in the large PSAPs is just over 10 years, compared to 6 years in the small PSAPs.
That is really interesting, Arnold, and I would think that's something we're going to want to understand better.
And yeah, over 50% of 911 specialists in the large and medium PSAPs have been employed for more than 5 years. In the large PSAPs, 37% have been employed for more than 10 years. In comparison, 57% of 911 specialists in the small PSAPs have been employed for less than 5 years. Next page reflects all of the recruitment methods. Currently, we listed all of the responses that were reported. We tried to steer clear of manipulating and cleaning the data. But we are considering creating groupings of based on and manually grouping the responses. That being said, we note that the use of job fairs, online job posting sites, social media, hiring and referral bonuses or approaches that are used in small, medium, and large PSAPs. At least several PSAPs reported allowing applicants to sit in with the 911 specialists.
Now, Arnold, on that, the way you have it broken down for the recruitment method, is that listed?
It's alphabetically based on the
Okay, not
the
it's
responses that we
not we haven't gone through yet to say which ones of the recruitment methods are the higher numbers.
No, we haven't grouped them yet, and
Okay,
that's something
okay.
maybe I was hoping to get feedback from the work group on how to do that, 'cause we weren't really trying to, manipulate it. We just wanted to keep the responses as they were.
Okay.
But
So again, just cherry picking some of these. It's advertising on job search sites, attending community events, having a communications recruiter, completing classroom training or on-the-job training, creating a recruitment video. CTO, Arnold, CTO pay differential, if you could translate that. Hiring a marketing company, hiring bonuses, $5,000 bonus, 1,000 after the initial start day, 1,000 after 3 months, 1,500 after 9 months, and 1,500 at 12 months. So that's worth sharing. Hiring employees to reduce the workload, referral bonuses, language differential and tuition assistance so people can learn other languages. Obviously, medical, dental, vision, life insurance, prescription plans, pension plans, promotional and advancement opportunities, retention bonuses, $1,100 every 6 months. So that gives you an idea of the cross section. And then that was just all at the large
Mhm.
counties. Medium counties have some different things as basic and as obvious and important as putting it on the county's website. But again, job fairs, hiring events. Ooh, the NINA Career Board Advertising. NINA is the National Emergency Numbers Association. Again, referral bonuses, social media. First time we've seen that. And smaller jurisdictions, again, hiring bonus, signing bonus, community events, flyers on social media, job fairs, promotional items, public outreach events. I'd love to see a presence at county fairs. I'd love to see, yeah, so, okay, so tuition reimbursement. Thank you for putting all this together, Arnold. This is really interesting.
Thank you. And yeah, next page. This page 8 of the report provides information on the application requirements. Here, one small PSAP did not indicate yes or no for the personality test or polygraph test. And just to summarize, all but one PSAP requires an interview. All but one of the 21, and it's a large PSAP requires an interview. All but one PSAP requires a critical test. 7 of the 20 respondents require a personality test. 3 of 20 respondents require a polygraph. All of the PSAPs require a background check, and 3 PSAPs, all of which are large, do not require a driver's license. On page 9, you can see it.
Anyone should feel, if you've got questions, feel free to pop in as we're in one section or another. Go ahead, Arnold.
All 21 PSAPs reported that they do not use artificial intelligence to pre-screen applicants, and 13 of the 21 PSAPs require some sort of training or certification to become a 911 dispatcher.
Sorry, can you go back to that 1 second? So 911 dispatcher, did you use that title specifically as opposed to specialist?
For that
Because
question,
they are required to have certification. Shar, maybe you can pop in, or someone else, or Sharif.
When I answered the question, I was interpreting it as a separate function from as a dispatcher only, as a sub category of the 911 specialist. I'm hoping that I interpreted that question correctly.
Okay, I wasn't calling it, for the record, anyone who is curious about this, all of this is confidential. I have seen none of the breakouts. I have no idea which entities responded which way on any of these questions. So Shar, I wasn't trying to single you out, just that I know you're here and you're smart.
Yep.
So
I interpreted that it was not a generic 911 specialist, that it was separate and apart in addition to the 911 specialist training that's required by law.
okay,
yes.
so that may be somewhere where I do want to follow up and maybe rephrase it based on just having, okay.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
Yeah. Anyone else need to speak to anything we've done so far before we continue to work to shift to shifts?
Yeah.
Okay.
This table or this table shows the different shift schedules. 3 of the 4 large PSAPs use a 12-hour shift schedule, and those are less common in medium or small PSAPs, where we see more of 24/72, which is a 24-hour shift followed by 72 hours off, and 2 days 2 nights and 4 off, where specialists work 2 days shift followed by 2 night shifts, then have 4 days off.
So it would be interesting to me, I'm sorry, good.
No,
So that was for medium, and now why don't you finish the small? Arnold, do you want to show what the smalls are?
they start from here.
So some that's similar, but some that's different in the small ones, smaller 911 centers. So these facts are interesting. I'm curious to know what the 911 specialists like and what they prefer, because we want them to be happy in order to stay in their jobs. And I wonder if some of the shifts are part of the challenge. Senator Croza, did you have a question or comment?
Yes, could you go back to the medium, Arnold? So there you're seeing the 2 days, 2 nights, 4 days off, which reflects not only 911 specialists, but the fire EMS schedules. So, and this goes to your point, Chair Kagan, about understanding what's driving. What I pick up from just anecdotal talking to those that are on those shifts, that gives sometimes some flexibility to work in other areas. So if you have, for instance, if you have a career EMS in one jurisdiction, they can, based on that schedule, pick up additional shifts from another jurisdiction. So I would be, I'm trying to understand how much, and mine is more anecdotal to that schedule with, with fire EMS. I would be interested to know from a standpoint of the 911 specialists, whether that is the same, or there's some of the same driving reasons of why they may like a schedule that, in essence gives 4 days off, that could possibly open up another job. And then that gets into, is that being driven because of salary? So that, I think there's a lot of complexity with understanding the shifts and the salaries, and then what some of those specialists are, how many are all of our specialists for the most part, full-time, or are they, and still picking up additional work, or are they part-time and picking up additional work? So that I think that we really need to do a deep dive into understanding the schedules and the salaries and what's driving, because I think some of this, there could be people that are opting, obviously, to be part-time so they can have the flexibility, so.
Can we hear from some of the, Sharif? I was just going to ask. I'd love to hear.
Yes, ma'am. So what I can speak on for Montgomery County, our shifts currently this year, we try something new. We've always been 12-hour shifts for the 6.5 years, almost 7 years that I've been there. This year we did 12s, 10s, and 8s.
So
from what I
just
can
put
tell,
that in plain English, Sharif, 12s, 10s, and 8s.
I'm sorry, 12-hour shifts, 10-hour shifts, and 8-hour shifts with different days off. From talking to, we do a Panama schedule, which is a 2 on, 2 off, 2 on, 3 off, and we get every other weekend off. So our schedules rotate. Talking to a lot of my coworkers on the floor, we do like the 12-hour shifts. We just had a back bid process where I've noticed that a lot of I believe we had 6 8-hour positions that we did this year, and a lot of the specialists that were on the 8-hour schedules bid back onto the 12-hour shift. So they decided to go back to a 12-hour shift. They didn't like the 8-hour shifts as much. And just some of the reasons that I was told was the hours what they thought it was, and the off days were kind of off for them because
Mm.
it's 5 on, 2 off. And I know a lot of my coworkers as well. We like the fact of having the couple days in the week off as well as every other weekend.
Mm.
And then we also, because we work 84-hour, our pay period is 84 hours, so we get an automatic built-in 4 hours of overtime. So I know from my center, we prefer the 12s, and then there is a number of people that like the 10s. The 8s are iffy. It was something new that we tried. Some people like them, but it's not that popular.
Could someone, Sharif, and I see you, Tamara, could someone choose to work part-time, and I would rather do 8 hours to do childcare or elder care
So
or something.
So yes, ma'am. At this current moment in time, we do have 2 part-time employees that work for our center. One of them is a close friend of mine who chose part-time for childcare. I don't know if any of the part-time employees have a second job. Usually it's a lot of family thing, and they work, if I'm correct, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and they have 8-hour shifts. So but in order to get a part-time position with us, and we only have 2 of them at this time, in order to get it, you have to be fully trained before. We have not opened up any more part-time positions. We just have those 2. And this is year 2 or 3 that we've had this into effect.
Thank you, Sharif.
Yes,
Tamara
ma'am.
Haney, Harford County.
Good morning. I was just going to offer, I'm now a manager for Harford County, but I did dispatch for many years. I've been there for 22 years.
Hey,
We've
you.
always been 8-hour shifts, and we have the interesting one you can see on the screen, the 5 days on, 3 days off. They fought for that because of the employees' mental health.
Mhm.
Every 6th week, they do work an extra day. They call it a K day. So an average county employee, as you know, works 2,080 hours a
Mhm.
year. And that's what my schedule is now, Monday through Friday. And then they work about 1,883 hours a year. So they're almost 200 hours less than an average county employee, which is interesting to me. But we offered an overlay schedule. We were going to look to do some folks on 8 and some folks on 12s. And we found that it's more of a younger generation that would prefer a 12-hour shift. Basically, you get more bang for your buck. I work a lot of 12s just voluntarily to help out with staffing. I also prefer 12 hours. But with staffing where it is now, we just can't, it's not feasible to do the overlay. And then I'd be interesting to speak with somebody from Montgomery County about how that all worked out, especially with laying out shifts and how you do mandates and things like that. Because I know from Cecil County, they were doing a lot of mandated 18 hours, and it was multiple days in a row. And that's very taxing on someone's mental health.
Yes.
So I just wanted to offer from our perspective where we're at.
Thank you. That's really interesting. I'm also curious, Arnold, do we get to unionized counties?
We did
On this chart?
we did get some information on unions. Some of it was not completed, some cells were blank, but generally what I found was that the large counties that provided responses, generally almost all of their specialists were members of a union,
Mhm.
but in the small PSAPs that responded, that wasn't the case.
Yes.
So
I'm just so curious whether shift work and hours or something. I would think that's a priority for a union that might be representing our 911 specialists. So, okay. If no one else has comments, toss back to Arnold.
Chair Kagan,
Yeah,
can I
please.
can I just also ask Worcester County if Stacy's on, if she had any comment from, that 12 hours, 8 hours here, and that there's different positive experiences going on in different counties.
Great. Stacy Norton, HR Director of Worcester County.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for a few moments. Our county does do the 12 hours, and we do it so it's two days on, 2 days off, 3 days on, and then 3 days off every other weekend off. That's the way it's been set up for many years. And what we have been looking at, and people like the 12 hours because then they can work part-time somewhere else, or they could pick up 4 hours on another shift to get some additional overtime. What we've actually been exploring is the layering. How could we get to be able to offer some more flexibility? Some that only want to work Monday through Friday because of daycare, an 8-hour shift, some a 10-hour shift, or a split shift. We only have 2 part-time employees, and that has helped us provide additional coverage. But the pushback that we've gotten is a lot of our specialists want to align with fire or ambulance and do the 24/7 shift, because then it's less work days, and we just don't have the facilities to offer a 24-hour shift. We don't have another room where they can go and sleep for the 6 hours like they can in a fire company. But that's what we've been requested, is 24/7. We just don't have the facilities to do that. But we are seeing more and more that that the daycare, ours, you either work a straight day shift, 6:30 in the morning to 6:30 p.m., or a straight night shift, 6:30 p.m. to 6:30 a.m. So we've looked at how can we offer more flexibility, but I'm shocked at how many of our staff work somewhere else part-time, whether it's 1 day a week or 2 days a week. And it's definitely a challenge. I think our biggest barrier is the training time for new specialists takes so long that it seems like we always struggle to get caught up. And because we don't have enough trained that what we feel like we would, that they are trained on all 4 call taking, fire, police, and ambulance, that we can't offer more flexibility in the schedules.
How many do you have under the headset at any one time in Worcester County, Stacy?
Our goal is to have 8, and the minimum is 4. But of course, our call volume changes. In the summer, Memorial Day to Labor Day, we have a lot more calls, and because of the special events in Ocean City, whereas the calls decrease in the winter, especially on the night shift.
Sure. Yep. Thank you. Helpful.
And I had a question. Are we going to be able to see the results of the survey? Because I was hopeful at some time we could, so we can learn what everybody else is doing, so we could reach out and benchmark with them. Because obviously for us to be able to move forward, we're going to have to make some changes.
Right. Arnold and I talked about that already earlier this morning. Arnold, do you want to speak to your plans on that?
Yeah, sure. We will provide a draft of this to the members following the meeting, hopefully maybe this week, but then we'll keep working on it later on as well. So yes, you will have a copy of this. And just we removed, there are no identifying information.
And that won't change. So we wanted everybody to feel comfortable giving us real data and not worrying about, you know, anyone judging them. Tamara, Harford County, you had something else to add?
Yes, ma'am. I just had one quick question. Was there any thought to reaching out to the dispatchers individually? Maybe having the directors send something out? Like, if you could build a perfect shift, or why do you work this schedule? Is it simply for your mental health? Because I hear a lot of people mentioning part-time. I don't work anywhere part-time. You know, my weekends, I say I'll, you know, die on the cross Monday through Friday, but my Saturdays and Sundays are me time. You know, why people prefer this schedule, and what's the driving force? Is it, you know, maybe your husband works 2 on, 2 off, and then you do your 2 on, 2 off, so you don't have to worry about daycare? Or do you need a part-time job, or do you have other commitments? I would just be curious. You know, it's great to look at the data and see how things are assigned to be versus, you know, maybe somebody has some crazy idea that has been in the industry for a while about a different shift or a different rotation that might work.
Sure. So, so just clarifying, and it is Tamara, right? Or do you pronounce it Tamara?
No, ma'am, you're right, Tamara.
Tamara, just checking, when you said 911 dispatcher, you're not referring to a different job. We're talking about 911 specialists, right?
Yes, I apologize. The line level staff, the ones that the boots on the ground.
I think it's a great idea, and I think that's something that we should figure out how we can do. So great idea. Stacy, you have something too? And Arnold, let's talk about how we could do that. So I think the priority is getting those last 3 counties to respond, but then we could circle back and ask them to offer for voluntary and anonymous participation to their 911 specialists. Stacy, you had something else? Stacy,
Yes, ma'am.
HR
Yes.
Director, Worcester County.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. One thing that wasn't really highlighted in the survey that I just wanted to bring out is the schedule, but the schedule didn't reflect those that have to be on call and called in. And that's usually negative feedback that we get from our specialist is they have a normal schedule, but based on staffing or somebody's out sick or someone has an emergency, if they're the specialist that's on call, then they are required to come in. They are notified when they're on call, so they know to plan, but those would be additional hours, typically at overtime rate, to fill in for someone else. And that makes the schedule challenging, that not only are you planning for your normal schedule, and then those that have requested time off vacation or out sick or on maternity leave, paternity leave, but then if someone calls out unexpectedly an hour before their shift, then they have to call somebody in that's on call. And we get feedback from our specialists is they don't want to be on call anymore because it's hard for them to plan.
Of course.
Thank you.
So I think all of that goes back to Tamara Haney's concept of let's make sure we are hearing from the people we're talking about. So I hope that those on this call will help us reach some of those sheroes and heroes, make sure we can hear from them directly. And Sharif, your ideas is in particular, since you are one of those sheroes and heroes, you can help us with the wording and all that.
Yes, ma'am. I'll be more than happy to help.
Awesome. Thank you. That's the right answer. Arnold, should we continue down?
Yes. Next page provides more insight into the work hours. Based on the responses that we received, on average, 911 specialists work around the same number of hours per week. I think it was around 42 in the large, in the medium, and 43 in the small PSAPs.
Okay.
Next tables show the policy on the shift breaks. Over half, or 12 of the 21, do not have a designated shift break. However, some who answered no reported that 911 specialists can take breaks. They just aren't established in practice. Um, 911 specialists are considered essential personnel, and the vast majority of PSAPs do provide on-site or hotel accommodation. Some will also provide transportation. So we did compile all of these responses for you to read.
Now, having been to all 24 jurisdictions, I can't remember how many had beds, but certainly a number did. I know that Prince George's does, and others. So in case of a snowstorm and an emergency, or the 24-hour shifts, that you do have a place for people to get a few hours of sleep.
Yeah, some have showers as well. Some did indicate that food is an issue. And at the very least, some do have air mattresses. And this page, starting on page 18, you have information on wellness resources and the physical amenities. This is one of those instances where we may have to create groupings of the different wellness resources offered. Many counties do offer an employee assistance or peer support group.
And just to give, there are treadmills, employee assistance plan, decompression room with a massage chair, just to give you a sense of the range. And we have legislated, actually, that 911 specialists can get direct mental health care without going through their supervisor. So if they worry about a stigma or judgment, that we wanted to remove that. And that's, I think, important.
And one interesting response thing, one large county does have an on-site occupational wellness doctor. Just thought that was interesting to point out. Yeah, again, on page 21, there's all the information on the physical amenities. Treadmills and quiet rooms can be found in large, medium, and small PSAPs.
And the treadmills are not always just in a separate room. I remember in Talbot County, there were specialist stations where they could do they could be under the headset and be on a treadmill to try to stay fit.
Good. And yes, all 21 PSAPs are accessible to 911 specialists and people with disabilities. There is a wide array of retirement benefits offered. One large and small PSAP did, however, indicate that they require 911 specialists to participate in the state retirement plan.
This is a conversation, just to go up for 1 second, Arnold. There are some PSAP directors or specialists who have mentioned an interest in parity. Police, fire, paramedics can retire sooner with full benefits than 911 specialists. And so that's, I think, an interesting conversation. I don't know if any of the counties have folks. Stacy, since you're an HR person, Stacy Norton from Worcester County, I don't know whether you want to speak to that or anyone else wants to speak to that.
I'd be happy to, and I think part of that, Senator Kagan, is the disconnect that not all counties participate with Maryland State Retirement, but with Maryland State Retirement, that's exactly true. Normal retirement for teachers or general county government employees is minimum of 30 years. There's some exception, early retirement, but normal is 30 years of service. But then for correctional officers, it's 20 years, and for law enforcement, it's 25 years. And there are some other exceptions, but that is, of course, something that the counties can't control, unfortunately, but there are some counties that have their own retirement. So then there's not consistency across all the counties.
Yes. Thank you.
Oh, sure.
Anyone else want to speak to that? And again, this is going to be helpful when we all have this in our hands and can digest it and not speed read through it.
Yeah, and we also aggregated all of the responses for the health benefits, starting on page 28, and then on page 32, you have all of the different other benefits that they provide 911 specialists. On page 35, you have information on workers' compensation. There were in fiscal 2024, there were a total of 22 workers' compensation claims, and 16 in the large PSAPs, 5 in the medium PSAPs, and 1 in the small PSAP, based on the responses that we received. And there's a little bit more detail on some of those instances.
Could I just 1 second? The 22 claims filed, do we have any idea how many were granted as and seen as valid?
That's probably something that we should have maybe asked. I'm not sure if yeah, that's a good question. Maybe that's another instance where we do have to follow up and
Yes.
ask about, out of those, how many were granted.
Sure, because out of 22 complaints, we're talking, Matthew, remind me the number or Christy, Dr. Collins, what's the number that Steve Souter uses? Is it like 1,500 or am I close? 1,200, 1,500? Dr. Collins, anyone else? Christy, you're on mute if you're, there you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Sorry, I was trying to rapidly get, yes, I believe so. I believe that's what I was actually looking at, trying to find a document. We do have a guidance for occupational health, and then occupational acute and traumatic stress for PSAPs. I was actually looking for that document on our website,
Okay.
so I could share with this group as well.
So yeah, maybe we should make sure that Arnold has access to that as we think about some follow-up. But again, as a percentage, you know, the worries that we've heard from Maryland Association of Counties and others, especially in these tight fiscal times, oh my gosh, it's going to be so expensive, it's going to increase our insurance rates and all that. But if we're talking about 22 out of 1,500, and again, Arnold, curious how many were seen as valid. So please keep going. This
Sounds
is
good.
Mhm.
And also we added all the responses we received to the question of what are the biggest challenges that the PSAPs face. And this varies from a lack of understanding of job expectations, the stress,
Mhm.
burnout, impact on mental health. Some did indicate the shifts work and shift schedule, or even finding
No, this is not television. I
and
love that. The reality of the job. Yes. And it's
and
not all wrapped up in 30 minutes.
even finding the number of applicants or even finding qualified applicants. So there's one here who says that 50% plus of potential candidates fail the psych test. So
Number of applications. 10 years ago, 100 plus applicants would be submitted. Now, if we get 30, it's a good day. So again, just how do we get more people under the headset who want to, who want to do this really hard job?
and then we also asked them to provide additional feedback, and that starts on page 40. I just maybe want to highlight one from each grouping. One large PSAB stated that they use a fast tracking hiring process where applicant takes the critical test, interview, and receive the background check all in the same day. And one is contingent on successful completion of the previous task. And this helps cut down on some of the hiring process time. One medium PSAP lauds the quiet room, and it says that it said it has a great impact on the 911 call center. And finally, we did three of the small PSAPs did have the responses related to the retirement. I'll just read this one here. It says the state needs to work with our federal partners to solidify a more beneficial retirement system that factors in the amount of constant trauma and stress that the specialists are exposed to, and offer long-term resources to individuals that work in the first responder fields to deal with the health and mental health issues that may develop from constant exposure to traumatic incidents. And that concludes the presentation for now. This is a preliminary analysis. We're open to suggestions. We are going to do some follow-ups, but we will provide this draft to the work group members following the meeting, just so you could read through it at your own leisure.
Arnold, this is a lot of work. Thank you. Why don't we stop share and take comments or suggestions? Sharif Thomas from Montgomery County, who is on the 911 board.
Yes, ma'am. I'm not sure if I missed it, but I'm actually curious about the salaries and the pay scales for each county. And I say that because I know in Montgomery County we have our initial salary, but we have different pay scales based off of what the specialist achieves. As in, you get your call take first, then dispatch, and then you qualify for the second dispatch, and your pay goes up. So I'm kind of curious about how that works for each county and what their and what the hiring pay is, so we know like where those disparities are. Because I mean, no offense to anybody here, I live in Prince George's County, but I chose to work in Montgomery County, and I didn't go for pay. I just didn't want to answer calls from people that I may know. So I chose to go to Montgomery County. So I'm just curious on what the pay is for each county.
Yeah, that's something that it was just difficult to show here, and we thought it would be too clunky. We are thinking about a good way to show this information, but we will provide that. It's just because of the different levels and classifications across all of the PSAPs, we just, but yeah, we'll definitely get that information to the work group members. Yeah, hopefully soon.
So Sharif, I think your comment is so important, and I was particularly focused on the Eastern Shore, ESCA, the Eastern Shore Communications Alliance. I mean, they poach from each other's county or have the potential to all the time. And again, if you live in Prince George's or working in Montgomery, it's very easy to cross county lines for more money or better benefits. Delegate Woods.
Yes, thank you. I'm kind of trying to think out of the box and not even sure if this is something that's been considered. But have we ever thought about using something like a community college to provide training for 911 specialists? It's extremely disappointing to hear that people are not passing for things like the psychological exam, when I believe that we can do training to help people to become better prepared. And in light of the current situation where a lot of people are losing jobs, is this not a vehicle that we can look at to get more people on board?
Yes. Delegate Woods, thank you. And Shar, if you want to weigh in, and I don't know if Senator Croza, if you have an update on the shore. I prevailed upon Montgomery College many years ago to have a class, and they did, and there was great interest. We had a lot of students, and unfortunately, it didn't yield what we had hoped. The students either applied elsewhere than Montgomery County, and so it didn't help in Montgomery County. They literally were applying and starting as 911 specialists in Northern Virginia or in other counties, or they didn't pass the test, which was disturbing. So Shar Flaherty, Prince George's County, can you share? Oh, here we go. Dorchester County, Bryant Mitchell, you can share with
Can I
us
just ask,
also.
before you go on, can I just ask another question?
Please.
Sure. So if we do it, can we do it and basically say, that it's tuition free if you pass and agree to take a position in the county where you took the certification or took the training?
I love that more than I can tell you. I love that. Let's hear from Dorchester County. Bryant Mitchell, what do you think? What's happening over there?
Hi, sorry, can you hear me?
Sure can.
Hey, so I just wanted to backtrack. You were talking about the Eastern Shore and poaching from one another. It is 100% a reality.
Yeah.
We poach from one another. Like, for example, Talbot County, they raise their salary, we raise ours. Queen Anne's County raises their salary, Talbot raises their salary. Then Caroline, we all poach from one another. Right now on the Eastern Shore, the 2472 is really becoming a push. And like Worcester said, we don't have the facilities to do 2472. And it's also a safety concern. So I just wanted to voice that out there.
Thank you, Bryant. And wasn't it Dorchester Community College who was I want to say that while Anna Sierra was there, that there was something on the shore. Am I not remembering that correctly? That there was a community college offering classes?
I'm not 100% sure on that. I was not here, unfortunately, when Anna was here. I came over from Delaware, which is a whole nother ballgame. So I'm not 100% sure on that one.
Okay. Well, thank you for providing your expertise, and thanks for being on the call. I do think there are challenges in all of this. And Sharif, when you asked about salary, clearly the salary in Montgomery County, because of cost of living and all that, is higher than it might be in Dorchester County, where it can be more affordable. But yeah, but we don't want to be poaching because the culture in each PSAP is different. So we don't want to train them in one place and then have them leave, because there's a bump up in pay. Does anyone else have any recollection, speaking to Delegate Woods's comment about community college or high school classes? Shar, and then Dr. Collins, maybe you've got a statewide perspective. Shar Flaherty, Prince George's County.
We are working with Prince George's Community College to develop a process and the high schools. So that should be, we are working on the process right now, and it should be put into place next school year. So again, working very closely with Prince George's Community College and high schools to make sure that works,
And
to
when you say
develop a pathway.
next school year, you're talking about this September?
Yes.
Okay, amazing. And I was told that Montgomery College was going to bring it back a while ago. So I think we want to look into that. Delegate Woods, are you aware of anything in Prince George's County? Or Southern Maryland, or any place that you're aware of?
Unfortunately, I am not. I will look
Okay.
into it though.
Yeah, so maybe you and Shar can collaborate. Between the two of you, there is nothing you can't do.
I'm on board.
Yeah. Senator Croza, are you trying to raise your hand here?
Chair Kagan, I'm meeting with the president of Warwick Community College tomorrow. So
Amazing.
this is one of the items on my list. We're really focusing on workforce shortages across the board, but definitely talking about the whole 911 specialists, fire, EMS, across the board.
Arnold, I wonder also if there's any conversation, and maybe MIMS can be in this conversation too, as well as MDEM. Is there anything we can do to reach out to federal employees who are looking for a job? They need to support their families. And I realize that there's a long delay. I mean, it takes 8 to 12 months to train people to get them under the headset, but you know, starting now and paying for training. Yes. Sharif Thomas, Montgomery County.
Yes, ma'am. So, as you probably know, I'm very involved in my center with everything. I am also on our recruitment and community outreach team. We do actually do a couple of events, and I will be happy to see a lot of our fellow 911 centers there. One of them that we do is recruit military, which we go, and a lot of military people who have come out of the military or leaving the military, they come to those events and they look for jobs. And then there's a couple federal, I believe the city of Laurel, which I live in, I believe Montgomery County, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe the city of Laurel also had like a federal event where like federal employees who got laid off could come. And, you know, our recruitment team does try to get out to these events to try to pique interest from federal employees, especially for the ones that live, because I mean, a lot of them do live in Montgomery County. A lot of federal employees do live in Montgomery County who were unfortunately laid off. So we do try to, hey, you still live in the county and come work for the county. So we do hit those recruitment events. I've seen a couple of 911 centers at some recruitment events, but I'll be more excited to see a lot more 911 centers at those events, Recruit Military and a couple others. Brian Matson from my center actually is the head of our recruitment team, but we do try to hit those events.
Fantastic. So I think this has been a really fruitful conversation, and I'm not trying to squelch it in any way. Does anyone else have something that they want to add to this? Because I think that survey had just a wealth of information.
I just wanted to share that when we went on inspections, some of the things, of course, the community college, that seems like an ongoing effort, depending on which county you're speaking with. But one of the things I found interesting is a couple counties shared with me their success at the YMCA is teaming up with that local administrator at the YMCA and being a part of that as well. They had a wonderful response. And as far as the federal employees right now, if you have those open positions, I know I have a couple, and it has been an overwhelming response, and federal employees are starting to apply. So just make sure it's shared wide and far. And I'm certain that they're going to start applying.
Dr. Collins, I wonder, I had talked to one of your predecessors about the idea of having a hiring portal on MDEM's website. Where would, if I just lost my job as a federal employee, is there a one-stop shopping where I would find out about 2 vacancies in Dorchester County and 3 in Montgomery and 2 in Prince George's? would I be able to easily find that in one location?
Yes, right now we do have one on our website that the 911 board has created. It's not part of MDEM just yet. Of course, our comms team's always looking at different efforts to improve and allow for that. But we do indeed have it on our, I think it's 911.maryland. Let me check. I'm gonna make sure I get the handle correctly. Yes, it's 911.maryland.gov. And if you go on there, we do have it's part of GIS. Julia, one of our board members, her and her team help support that. And it does highlight, of course, our recruitment video that the board did, along with a map that will go to the individual counties. Let me see if I can pull it up. We know when you're on the spot trying to pull it up, it's
Of
not as
course,
easy, but
Murphy's Law.
I will send it to Arnold. I will
Perfect.
send it to him, so he has that reference as well.
I think to the degree that all the counties can be helping push that out, and adding information to MDIM, to the 911 board site or whichever, just making sure that someone can find the information and find a PSAP near them. Randy, anything from MIMS that you want to share? Anything that you're doing with federal employees or to supplement 911 specialists, finding jobs, recruitment, retraining, training and retention?
Nothing to add at this point. I'll check in with MDEM and see if there's anything we can collaborate on.
Love it. Love it. Maryland State Police, Major Gregory. Just want to make sure everybody's had their voice in the room. If they've got something. Captain Stevenson, anything you want to add? You're muted.
No, ma'am.
Okay. All right. All right. So let's talk about what we're doing moving forward. Cecilia, are you good?
I'm still here. Yes, I'm good. Thank you.
Of course. Okay. Nathan Cooney. Okay. I'm just trying to call on everybody, make sure everybody's got Catherine Caw.
Yes, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. All right.
I'm good as well. Thank you.
Okay. Dynamite. Okay. Arnold, why don't we talk about your thoughts and our plans for next steps? And we want your ideas, you guys, but we have a tentative proposal for your consideration. And Arnold, you are muted.
Thank you. Yeah, like the senator said, we wanted to put forward a plan of action for the upcoming meetings, which consists of meetings or working sessions focused on different themes relevant to the 911 specialist work group and based on recruitment, development, and retention. And this since this work group is made up of, subject matter experts with the deep knowledge of and experience of these issues that we are hoping to address, my suggestion or our suggestion for the work group's consideration is that we would meet in June for a discussion or session centered on hiring and recruitment. Then in July, there'd be a session devoted to specialist training, 911 specialist training and certification, basically, and the skills needed to succeed as a 911 specialist. In August, we would meet to focus on wellness, which encompasses, among other things, the wellness resources, the shift schedules, the amenities. Then we would meet in September to concentrate on the 911 specialist benefits, including the retirement, health, other benefits, and discuss also the workers' compensation. And then in October, we would meet for final recommendations. And then in November, the final meeting in November to review the draft of the final report and to vote on the final report. with the view of submitting the report for that December 1st due date.
Yep. And all of this was just a concept. If the order doesn't seem right, if something seems like we need to bump it up, love to have your feedback. And again, Arnold will send this out maybe in a separate email, Arnold, so that people can just focus on the rhythm of this work group. So
Definitely.
we're gonna try to push hard. We also know that there are people who have vacation plans in July or August or even June. So everyone's gonna do the best they can to participate, and as many materials as possible can go out in advance. So if you're gonna be unavailable for a meeting, that you can share your views, your thoughts or ideas in advance. Yes, Senator Croza?
Thank you, and thank you for putting forward a plan of action with specifics. From the standpoint of knowing that the retirement's going to be a complex and heavy lift, two thoughts. One is either to move that up further in the summer, and two, is there any benefit for a couple of, I don't want to say subgroups, but maybe just breakouts on a couple of these issues
Yes.
that we don't have to, basically wait that month to, and, I'd be happy, maybe if if we identify a couple issue, I'm not saying every issue needs a work group, but, maybe a couple of us could focus on a couple key areas, which would then lead to by these meetings, actually maybe having some recommendations to consider.
I totally agree. And so everyone in this meeting or anyone watching from home or work, if you have interest in one of the breakout sessions, I think that makes total sense and will make our our upcoming meetings more effective and productive. So, Shar and Cecilia were on the 911 commission, the Next Gen 911 commission that I chaired, that we worked for 4 years, and we had 4 subcommittees. One was, and now I'm challenging my aging brain here, but we had one that was budget and structure, one that was staffing and training, one that was cybersecurity and geographic information and stuff like that, and the fourth one was oversight and accountability. I don't think those are quite what we need. I think that functions more for 911 specialists, but we can come up with subgroups and circle back and ask each of you to step up for 1 or 2 that might make most sense. So, Senator Carrozza, maybe you and I can brainstorm what works along with Arnold, and then circle back with everybody. But if you have ideas, please don't hesitate. Just email Arnold now, and something that interests you and something that you think is important as a subgroup.
And we do want members to be engaged. You were appointed on this work group for a reason, and we value your feedback, your expertise, your experience. We have HR professionals, directors, legislators, and so yeah, so we do want you to participate, lead, and drive the conversations and the recommendations. So yeah, thank you.
Love that. Well said. Well said. Comments, questions, anything for the good and welfare of this group? Okay, gave you a lot of time here. So I think we're going to give you 40 minutes of your day back here. And I really want to give a shout out again to Arnold Aja. That was a lot of data to try to compile into one document. So look for that in your email. You might we might pretty it up a little bit, and then we'll go from there. We will do doodles for each upcoming meeting, and so if you can do those, so we can try to accommodate and include as many people as possible on our next meeting. With that, I think we're good. Arnold, closing words?
Oh, thank you. Thanks. I'm turning it over to you for closing words.
I think we're good. Grateful to each of you and all of you. And David, thank you for helping handle the tech stuff. Thank you all for your time and your service. And stay well, stay safe, and I'll see you at the next meeting. This meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Take care. Arnold, why don't you stick around for a sec? And Matthew, if you want. Molly, please stick around if you like. Oh, or not. Okay. Oh, Arnold went away. Okay, I'll just call him. Thank you all. Bye. Bye, David.
Bye.